SJ.
And I'm Bianca.
And this is ScreenGab. And today we are talking about The Man from Snowy River. We decided to do something a little bit different and watch some older movies, which we picked based on the theme of who our first movie crushes were. So I picked this one. I will let Bianca tell us the synopsis, because I cannot be impartial or objective.
When Jim Craig and his father are discussing their finances, a herd of wild horses called the Brumby Mob passes by, and Henry wants to shoot the black stallion leader, but Jim convinces his father to capture and sell him instead. The next morning, the mob reappears and Henry is accidentally killed. Before Jim can inherit the station, a group of mountain men tell him that he must first earn the right, and to do so, he must go to the lowlands and work. So one thing, Jim Craig is the main character. He's
yes,
like, how old
he's
would
my
you
movie
say?
crush.
Yes. How old would you say he is?
I think he's supposed to be like 20-ish, or like maybe like a little bit younger, like a teenager,
older teenager.
A young man.
And then a station is like where they farm, roam, live.
I guess they're sort of their homestead. I think.
Okay.
Like they have like their little hut, kind of like a cabin barn.
And they work the land.
Yeah.
Like
and then
it
these
says,
guys come up at the funeral.
At his
they
dad's
tell
funeral.
him that he has to leave, and he's like, "But this is my place now. I own it." And they say, "Owning it's got nothing to do with it, lad. You go down to the low country and earn the right to live up here. Just like your father did." And yes, they have accents just exactly like that.
Literally that intensely. Also, this takes place in Australia. So,
kind of important detail. That's why they have those accents.
So he does go down to the lowlands and he finds work at Harrison's ranch. And Harrison is a Yank.
He's American.
And he's like a cattle herder, but he's like big time and he makes a lot of money doing this. And he has a colt that's worth 1,000 pounds, which
he gets at the beginning, after Jim gets there. Because Jim's at the train station when the colt arrives.
Yes. My tidbit into this is that I looked up what 1,000 pounds in Australia would be worth, like
in
around
the 1800s.
This. Yeah, when the film is set. I found a site, estimated it between something like 100,000 and like over $1 million American dollars.
Really specific.
Which, I mean, both of those are like, to me, who I'm not very familiar with horses. Either way, that's a lot of money. Very valuable horse. So,
yes.
we don't want anything to happen to this horse because that would be unfortunate.
Eventually, the horse gets set free and is running with this wild pack of horses. And Jim is blamed for it, but he didn't do it. And then Harrison is like, "Everybody, come help me catch my horse, and I'll give 100 pounds to whoever catches it." And Jim is part of the crew, even though Harrison's like,
trust
him. Come to survey his handiwork. And then Clancy's like, "I want him along."
Like, I mean, he doesn't like Jim because he thinks he let this horse free.
And
or this
also...
colt free. Yeah. So, Harrison has a daughter, Jessica. Why don't you explain how they meet?
Well, so when the colt gets off of the train, Jessica is holding the reins, but she's got like a trench coat and a hat pulled down low, which I never noticed until Bianca pointed out a little bit ago that she like was dressed like a man and you wouldn't be able to tell she was a woman. There's a lot of things I never realized about this movie because I've literally been watching it my whole life. Anyway, she's holding the reins, and this dog starts barking, and the colt gets skittish and starts like bucking and kicking and it's running around, and there's like a crowd. It's like, "Oh no!" And she's trying to calm it down, but she's losing the battle. And so Jim comes running in because he's a very capable mountain man who's good with horses, and he's trying to take over, but she's still hanging on to the reins even though she's being like dragged around on the ground. And he goes, "Let go, mate, bloody!" And then she lets go, and then he calms the horse down. And that's how he gets the job, actually, because Mr. Harrison's right-hand man is like, "Oh, well, thank you for your help. If we can do anything." He's like, "Oh, I'm looking for what?" That's how they meet, because Jessica, like, pulls her hat off, and then they're like,
my gosh, she's
"If I
a
needed
woman.
your help, mate, I would have asked for it."
So I would like to say, because I didn't say it earlier, I really like this movie a lot.
Yay!
It's definitely a coming-of-age film, and there's a lot of emphasis on, like, masculinity, kind of proving yourself as a man, like, through your work and, like, your ability to provide.
That's literally how the movie ends, is with people agreeing that Jim Craig has proven that he's a man now, and he's the man from Snowy River, because before that,
and it's, like, pointedly said. Like, we start off with this crew coming after his dad's funeral saying, "You can't have this land unless you work for it." And then by the end, there's just this definitive, he's a man now. Everyone see, he's a man.
There's actually, like, Spur, who is sort of a mentor to Jim, says, "He's not a lad, brother. He's a man. He's a man!" And then he rides on his little cart. If you don't want to watch the movie, you can just come over and I'll quote the whole thing at you. Let's talk about some other ways that Jim is very manly in this movie. Because, like, there's the big deed, like, which I guess this is a spoiler podcast, except this is an old movie that people might not
Everyone
see.
knows by now that this is a spoiler podcast.
I just feel bad every time.
It's totally cool.
So, they're chasing the horses, And the horse, they're wild horses, and so they go down this really steep cliff at one point, and everybody is like, oh, dude, that's it, we can't follow them. But then Jim comes up on his mountain horse, and he's like, I'm going right over that cliff. And he does, and the music is great, by the way. He's like, basically like vertical, like he's totally leaning all the way back.
They're
on the
going
horse
down
and
a very steep hill and like running. So it's like this
Yeah.
pack of wild horses, and then this
And
man
then
on a horse. And he is dangerous. And there are these moments with the horses where it's just like nothing, like sound. All of a sudden they rush by and you just like feel the power of it. It's very intense, and it's just watching it, just a different kind of action scene. I was like, this is like how in a movie I would typically watch, or at least ones from now, like where there would be like a car chase or just like big explosions or something, and it just some sort of spectacle. And this is like totally it for this film, and it for me was unlike anything I'd seen, and I really loved it a lot.
It's a natural spectacle. I mean, but it is well shot. I mean, it's not just horses are cool. Here's a really well packaged way to show you visually and auditorily. I don't know. Jim's the only one that's man enough to go down this super steep cliff that would have killed everybody else because he's so awesome. And so he gets to the bottom, he survives, but everybody at the top is like, well, Harrison says, you can bid the mob good day. Like, well, we're never going to see them again, whatever, lost cause. And they all just start heading back. And then all of a sudden they're like, look, here he comes. That was the music at the beginning, by the way. He's driving this whole herd all by himself, and he drives them all the way back to Harrison's stable, and he saves the day. It's amazing. What this whole movie is based on is a poem by Banjo Patterson about that event, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it's just about there's this horse that's missing and it's joined the wild bush horses, and we're gonna round up a bunch of guys and go after them, and only one guy goes down the hill and brings it back all by himself. But earlier than that, there's the part where Jim is splitting wood, and the other hired hands are like, oh, he's a very hard worker. And also, while Mr. Harrison and the rest of the yard hands are out collecting his cattle from the mountains, Jim's left behind because he mouths off. Well, he doesn't mouth off, but he doesn't agree with Mr. Harrison that you can tame the mountain country. So as punishment, he's left behind with all the women. But then it's the same with Jessica, and he breaks in the colt that has never been ridden, that was so flighty
That's worth
and stuff.
1,000 pounds, and it's like, you're not trying to lose that thing.
Yeah, but that's another, like, manly thing that he does, is get my skills with a horse.
No, it's like blow by blow, like watch this guy prove how capable he is.
Yeah.
Even though no one thinks he is capable. Like, yeah.
Well, but Jessica thinks he is, because it's her idea. She's like, well, my father would be away
None
for more
of
than a
the
week
men
if the colt's
think
broken
he's
in when he gets
capable.
back. What can he say? Yes. Curly does not. But Curly's more, I think, jealous.
Andy's just manipulative.
Curly is
and
his other
weird
yard
and
hand
bored
that's a
and
total
mean.
jerk. He's an antagonist.
Yes.
He's like a jerk, but he's like relatively harmless jerk, except he is the one that sets the colt loose that blames him for it. He's
ultimately proves to be harmless.
He's like a very inept villain. One of the unique things about this movie is that Kirk Douglas plays two roles. He plays Harrison, but he also plays Spur, and they're brothers. And there's this whole sordid history because they're both in love with the same woman.
It's not quite clear at first that they're brothers, and then it kind of like you start to assume it, and then there's just clearly resentment amongst both of them.
Yeah, and like Jessica like doesn't know that Spur exists. She's like, I don't know, how old do you think she's supposed to be? Like 18? I feel like she and Jim are both like 18 or 19, something like that.
They're like older teens.
So there's a part where Jim brings Jessica to Spur's cabin because she like ran away and then she fell off a cliff. There's a lot of cliffs in this movie. She was like halfway down a cliff, stranded, and Jim rescues her. It's very romantic.
Yeah, it's scary. She gets herself on this cliff. It's raining.
Yeah.
The horse she has freaks out, and she falls over, but somehow manages not just completely
There's like a
fall
little
off
ledge.
Yeah. But little, emphasis on little.
Yeah.
Like, she really should have fallen off of it. And but she falls asleep there, and she wakes up still on the ledge and just absolutely starts, she starts screaming.
But Jim rescues her, and she says afterward that when I was trapped on that cliff, I was terrified. But then that passed, and all I wanted was to see you again, to be with you. So I hung on until you came. Bianca's covering her face right now out of embarrassment for my level.
This happened while we were watching the movie, and honestly, like, I'm putting my hands on my face right now, but I totally encourage her to do this. SJ could probably, like, read this whole film to you.
I think that I could.
Oh my god.
This movie and the Princess Bride, I'm pretty confident that I could quote, like, every single line in both of those. And sometimes I do when I'm, like, in some kind of situation that I don't want to be in, that I'm trying not to think about, like at the dentist getting like a filling or something.
Are you serious?
I just like close my eyes and start quoting a whole movie in my head.
Aww.
Stories can be very powerful.
Yeah.
Also, I got the idea from The Princess Bride because that's what Wesley does when he's being tortured. At least that's in the book. I don't think that's in the movie.
Oh. Well, fun fact.
Okay, so another part of this movie is the love story between Jim and Jessica. Why don't you tell me your thoughts on it? Because I have like my current thoughts plus my thoughts as a child.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I'm not nearly as enthusiastic as you probably presently are about. I kind of like, I'm realizing about myself that I'm usually not really super enthused or interested or compelled by romance in film. I usually am just like, so I mean, like it wasn't.
It's not
bad,
really
it
over
was
the top,
fine.
though. It's a subplot.
Yeah.
It's a pretty strong subplot. But
Yeah.
I just have a complicated relationship with Jessica because as an adult, I love her and I love how feminist she is and how strongly she stands up for herself and like says like, stop telling me that I can't do stuff because I'm a woman. I'm really good at horses. Dad, you know, don't send me to boarding school. As a child, like, I remember, like, resenting her and being like, she's not that cool, why does Jim even like her? Which I think is part of the way that girls are socialized to be competitive with other girls and, you know.
Especially if they both like the same guy.
Yeah, which I did.
SJ.
Also, as a child, like, I had a hard time separating this movie from reality. Not that I didn't know it was a movie. I really did. Like, I can't remember not watching this movie. It's one of my earliest memories is loving this movie and, like, watching it over and over and going around the kitchen, like, pretending I was riding a horse and singing the music. And there's this part in the middle of the horse chase where Jim has to get his horse going again and he goes, Huts! And I would do that over and over again. And anyway... I was totally in love with Jim Craig. And, like, my mom, whenever she would bake pies, she would cut the initials of our family in the pie. You know how you have to, like, cut something in it for the steam to get out and stuff? And I remember saying, like, repeatedly, like, when I grow up, I'm not going to do that initial. I'm going to do JC for Jim Craig. And
Oh my god.
that was, like, going to be one of the signs of my, like, ultimate devotion. Like, I, like, vaguely knew that, like, the chances were really slim that I would actually get to meet him and marry him, but I would totally be down for it if it happened. And I remember being devastated when I realized that Jim Craig is not a real person, and that's not even the name of the actor. Like, this is an actor, this wasn't, like, a documentary, which, I mean, when you're a kid, like,
Yeah.
you just don't have a whole concept of what a movie is, and so it was devastating, and I've never gotten over it.
How old do you think you were when you realized that?
I don't know how old I was. One of my cousins is into psychology, and she's like, oh, it's like children under 12 have a hard time distinguishing, you know, fantasy from reality, and I'm sure I was younger than 12. Maybe I was 5 or 6. I don't know. And I don't remember, like, what triggered it, the realization. Like, I remember, like, other movies, like Little Women, which was another one that we watched over and over. And the first movie that I saw after that had Susan Sarandon in it, that I was like, what? Marmee? That's not right. But maybe it was partly, like, we just watched the same movies over and over.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a lot of repeat actors. And, you know, there's the credits at the end, and they have the names of everybody. But I couldn't read as a child.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I just really like this movie and this guy. He's just a character, but he's great. But when I was younger, I was also, like, really enamored with their romance. And as I told you while we were watching the movie, I used to, like, count every time they kissed. And be like, there's one! That's one kiss! There's two! That's 2 kisses!
It is so, like, I never did that as a child, but I love that you did that. That's just a window into someone else's mind.
This is the life of a fangirl, okay? This is how it starts. This is how it started for me. As, like, at least a 3-year-old, maybe younger, and then it never stopped. I just transferred it to other things. I mean, it's basically like when I watch, like, Vampire Diaries now, and I'm like, oh, my OTP is kissing! I have a tweet about it! I just didn't have Twitter back then.
Jessica and Harrison live with Jessica's Aunt Harrison's sister-in-law.
Yes.
And
Aunt Rosemary.
Yeah, I feel like it's much more clear with her actions and her words that it's like directly associated with the study of feminism and applying that to her own life.
Yeah.
And there's even a part where she's kind of in defense of Jessica to Harrison, saying that she has such skill and interest in like
your own daughter, as you well know, has a good mind and a way with horses. Now, would you have these skills developed, or would you condemn her to a life of domestic dullness?
Exactly what she said. And so, like, there's just this clear women should be able to go beyond the structures that are set up for
very,
them.
very clearly stated.
So that's interesting. Like, it's not, I mean, you kind of have that with Jessica when she's introduced, because I feel like this happens a lot in film where it's like, no one thought she was a girl, but then it was revealed that she was.
Because she has long hair.
She's so capable. Oh my god. Like, it's just, the film does have that, but then it has, like, very plain, this is important, and this is associated with feminism.
Then later, when he finds out that they were writing the cult while he was gone, and he comes in to confront Jessica.
When Harrison finds out.
And he's like, he's fired, and you're going to boarding school on the next train. And she's like, no, I won't go. And then he slaps her, which is horrible. And she runs out. That's why she runs away. But then Aunt Rosemary says, you wouldn't dare break the spirit of that wretched cult the way you just crushed your own daughter. And I think that's a great line, because it's true. And it also, like, says a lot about his character and a lot about the plot.
Well, he thinks about women.
Yeah.
And horses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. He's a horrible man, but it's a great line.
Needless to say, the aunt / sister-in-law has a lot of, like, comebacks that are just snap.
Another great Aunt Rosemary line, which is not related to this scene at all, but when Jim brings them the tea while everyone else is gone, and before he and Jessica start breaking in the cult. Anyway, Jessica's practicing piano, and Aunt Rosemary's in there, and then Jim brings in the tea, and then Aunt Rosemary's like, oh, well, won't you join us? He's like, oh no, I gotta get back to work. And she says, oh nonsense, male company will be a pleasant relief in this hothouse of female emotion. And I just think that's hilarious. And also, I grew up in a house with a lot of sisters, and we used to quote that line.
Okay, so there's a part where Jessica's playing the piano, and then, I don't know if it's
the same scene. And then after Jim leaves, then all of a sudden she
can play the song better.
Much more sensitive.
Yeah. What are the implications there?
Well, Aunt Rosemary raises her eyebrows very significantly. That's the other thing she does besides having snappy verbal comebacks. She has a lot of significant eyebrow raising. Like, what would you say your favorite part was?
The ending scene at the climax with
going down the cliff.
Yes, that's easily my favorite scene. I would suggest that you watch this movie for that scene, if nothing else. You can watch. But
also for like the montage where they fall in love, Jim and Jessica, because it's really pretty music. It's piano, and that montage ends with them like walking into this like gorgeous orange sunset, and there are these silhouettes of this boy and this girl with a tiny waist and a giant skirt and a horse, and it's just. The whole thing is just like, #goals. In another life, if I was Australian and I lived in the 1800s and Jim Craig was a real person. I have always wanted to go to Australia. And I said this while we were watching the movie, and while you were watching the movie for the first time, and I was like, really, 1 million back? It would be so awesome to go and to like rent a horse and then ride it up in these mountains and be so beautiful. But I don't know. I don't want to do like a tour where you have to like wear a helmet and ride on a dumb trail. I want to ride it up in the wild mountains.
She wants a real thing. Yes.
And then say, it's so beautiful up here. 1 minute it's like paradise, the next it's trying to kill you. And then he says, you've got to treat the mountains like a high-spirited horse. Never take them for granted. And then she says, it's the same with people too. Then they kiss for the third time.
Oh my god! Oh my god.
Guys, it's just a really good movie, and I know I sound like ridiculous and extreme, but also I feel like this is a testament to how good this movie is, that I've literally been watching it for decades, and I still think it's so exciting and so great.
And I also really like it too, having watched it for the first time. And I will be watching it. I think I'm gonna buy this.
Yay! Yeah. Maybe lots of people will listen to this podcast and go buy it, and then they'll like never stop printing that DVD because
you'll always be able to get a new copy.
I guess DVDs aren't that big of a deal anymore if everything is streaming, but
everything's not streaming.
Well,
and I think too, people are gonna have this like backlash of just not trusting that they'll always have stream available to them.
You've seen my basement. That's my philosophy. If I love it, I might. Well, also because if I really love it, I want more movies like that. I want to support the studio and the directors and the people that worked on it. Yeah. Take my money!
Okay, can we talk about the horses?
Yes, let's talk about horses!
Okay, so one, I've had friends throughout my life who really love horses or who have horses. It's like, it's not like my first time seeing a horse. But before, we were just talking about what movies we might watch, and then we decided on the two. I just did have some of just like, horses are just like ridiculously gorgeous. Like, they're just obnoxiously like pretty and graceful. Like, it's weird, but I love it. And so there's a bunch of horses in this movie, so
yes,
I love that.
That is definitely another great thing about Jim Craig that's very attractive, is he has a beautiful horse. It's so pretty. It's like sandy colored, but it has like dark ears and like a dark brownish mane, but like black ears and like black forelocks, forelegs. I don't know horse terms.
I don't know.
They're just really pretty, and it's I love it. It's my favorite kind of horse. Maybe possibly because
I know. I was gonna say your brain is like associating all these things with Jim Craig, so that they're just for like immediately positive and great and wonderful.
He's a mountain horse, and he knows that country even better than I do.
Okay, and so the other thing about horses is there's a part in this movie, I don't even remember when it is, but I mean, this horse gets kind of like riled up or freaked out or something.
Oh, it's when Jim's like riding the colt because they're breaking it in, and the wild horses come, and he goes to save his stuck horse. He falls over the fence, and then he gets like almost trampled, but not really, by all the wild horses, and then the stallion comes up.
Okay, so
right? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. I'm talking about yes. Okay, so there's this stallion. And he kind of like whips his head around, but like you still see half of his face.
It's like a freeze frame.
Yes. I'm going to like reach out here for a second. Okay, so you guys know Tomska. So he has this thing where, he like kind of whips his head around and he has that like horse mask on. And it looks just like that, but it's a real horse. And they like freeze frame on it. And then they just get closer and closer and closer to his eye. And it's like freaky and weird. And it just looks like a meme. But this film came out in 1982, and it's just amazing and ridiculous and so out of place, and I just love it.
It is a little ridiculous.
Oh my god, yeah, so...
And the music, too, at that part is like... Dun, dun, dun. Every time it zooms in, it has like another little crescendo.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I think it's supposed to be like showing the intensity of this encounter and the sort of stare down.
Yeah, and I agree, but it's...
And I think like maybe the horse... like, they couldn't get it to stand still and stare at Jim, so they, like, did I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to defend it. It is silly. But,
yeah.
And also, it was the first video that I made when I figured out how to do time-lapse videos on my iPhone.
Oh.
Was, like, a recreation of that, except just with me zooming in on my own eye. And sent it to my family.
You see? Yeah. So, did they immediately get it?
They all got it.
Well, I'm happy they got it.
Inside jokes, man. We sort of talked about this, but like you were saying, like it's like an action movie with horses. Instead of a car chase, there's a horse chase.
Yeah.
And it
great. Is awesome.
It's really great. I recommend it as much as you could possibly recommend something, and I do not recommend the sequel.
Yeah. Oh, you don't recommend the sequel. Yeah.
No.
We will not be watching the sequel then.
I haven't watched the sequel in years.
Have you watched it more than once?
Yes, of course.
Is it the same actor?
Yes, Jim Craig is in it with the same actor. It's not the same actor for Harrison. They couldn't get Kirk Douglas to come back, so they kill off Spur. They say that he died in between movies, and then Jessica's dad is just a different actor, and they don't explain why. It's just not as good. But watch this one over and over again. Oh, I love it so much. I'm trying to think of more things to say because I want people to know how good it is. Yeah. We didn't really talk about Spur. He's kind of
we didn't really talk about
there's a lot of little things. Yeah, there's just a lot of good lines. There's some good like life advice lines. Spur says, "Forget the mayor, you duffer. Don't throw effort after foolishness." Which the first part is very specific to the plot, but the second part like applies to your whole life. There's a part where he's like, "You just concerned yourself with Jim Craig. Stop poking around in other people's business or whatever."
I don't remember how much we included of this, but it was a long conversation about beards and how everyone looks better with a beard. If we didn't include it in the last podcast, I'm sorry, because it was extremely entertaining. I think there should still be a bit, though. But anyway, the point is, SJ said that to me, and then we were watching this movie, and Jim Craig does not have a beard, and he never grows one. It just never happens.
That's okay, though.
So I found out that everybody looks better with a beard.
Except for people that I already fell in love with that didn't have one, and they don't need to be improved. That might have been a bit too broad of a comment that everybody looks better with a beard. But it's mostly true.
It's mostly true.
But also, Jim Craig is perfect the way he is. He doesn't need any improvements, and I'm still in love with him. He's very manly. But the end of the movie, after this whole, like, driving all the horses, he's very sweaty, and so is his horse, and his hat is all sweaty, and he tips it to Jessica, and she waves and smiles at him. He's on his horse. That's why he tips
I'm on
to
a
her and
horse.
doesn't, like, come over and hug her or something, because he's on his horse.
You know that, though? I'm on a horse. Remember
Well,
that ad?
No. Oh, is it like the Old Spice? Or something?
Yeah.
Jim Craig is better than that guy. I do hope that more people watch this movie and fall in love with it, because there needs to be a bigger fandom presence online for this particular movie. I remember being frustrated in high school when I tried to look for fan sites, and there are some. They all have the same, like, dozen pictures,
Aww.
and half of them are, like, fan sites for the actor that plays Jim Craig, and I try not to think about the fact that he's an actor, and I definitely don't want to see recent pictures or anything about his personal life.
Just want the memory.
I just want
Frozen
all
in
the gifts
time.
of this movie, and it's just great. It's a great movie! I'm really glad that you liked it, Bianca, because, like, I'm sure we could have a conversation and be civil if you did it.
This movie was awful.
It would be a lot sadder. It was a lot more fun that you liked it.
Yay! That's it for this movie. We're going to be doing mine next time. And mine is a little more, like,
Well known.
did I? Didn't I? Like, well, first of all, it's Cool Runnings. And so the last time I watched this movie as an adult, I was watching it. I don't even remember the character's name, but it's like the main character. And like my heart fluttered when I saw him. And I thought, what? And it wasn't just like, because I mean, obviously my heart flutters when I see like, people. But like, it was like, I could tell it was from memory from something long ago. And I was like, aw, 4-year-old Bianca, that's cute. You have a crush on him. Aw. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with as my first movie crush. So we'll be doing Cool Runnings next time. We hope you enjoyed this podcast.
And we hope you watch The Man from Snowy River, the greatest movie of all time, according to me.
Yes.
But I'm right.
Bye.
Bye.